people have been saying now for a couple of years that Brigitte Macron, the First Lady of France, is in fact a dude.
What? Yes. Are you ready to accept the fact that your tax dollars have funded bad things happening to young people to pull levers of power?
President Donald Trump wants everyone to please stop talking about the Epstein files. Tucker did the opposite and then some.
Any system that will only survive on protecting pedophiles needs to freaking fall to the ground.
I agree. Clearly, Trump wants this story to go away.
The bombshell that Tulsi just dropped proves that the 2016 Russia collusion narrative was a calculated lie.
Look, I don't like the candidate that was going to win, okay? But at the same time, you either support democracy and a democratic process, or you don't.
You know, unfortunately, and I couldn't agree with you more. I just don't see the.
I think it's fortunate.
Yeah, why do you think unfortunately when you say you agree? It's good you guys are agreeing sometimes.
All right, welcome to Her Take. We have a sick show for you today in the best and worst ways. Before we get started, please subscribe, click the bell notification so you never miss a show. It helps us a ton with the algorithm. Here is what's on deck. Epstein, no surprise. So from Trump's Picasso-like drawing to Epstein to Ghislaine's potential testimony, what are they releasing? What aren't they? We're going to be giving you the latest. Tucker Carlson's super controversial speech at Turning Point. So apparently he wants to revoke citizenship for anyone who served in a foreign army and so much more, and is going to be breaking that down. Tulsi Gabbard has just dropped a bombshell, releasing declassified intel that she says proves the Obama administration knowingly pushed a false Russia narrative in 2016. By the way, I didn't know this was new news, but Lindy's going to be telling us what is new and maybe why it's dropping now. The latest on Zoran Mamdani. So now this guy is openly calling for abolishing private property and dismisses prisons as obsolete. So while that might sound radical to most Americans, his ideas are actually gaining traction, especially with the rise of his ideological twin, Omar Fateh. So we're going to unpack how socialism is proving contagious and why elements of the Democratic Party are no longer just tolerating Mamdani, they're actually beginning to embrace him. Then Brigitte Macron's high-profile libel defamation legal battle regarding the assertion that she was born a man. Amy's got the latest on that. And last but not least, more Autopen chaos and conspiracy. So let's jump in with Epstein. This gets crazier by the minute. Amy?
Yeah, so let's start with what happened, last night, and then we'll kind of back it up and bring you forward to today. I'm going to give you guys the full timeline, the full rundown. And I was just saying to Anna before this is so hard to keep track of because literally, like, July 15th, for example, there's like 3 different things that we need to talk about there. But what did break is a top U.S. senator actually sent out a letter to the FBI and the DOJ demanding answers after new information obtained by his office revealed that FBI agents were instructed to flag any documents within the Epstein files pertaining to President Trump. And I'm not sure if you have the second one, Connor, where they actually have it highlighted, but you can see here, they specifically, I'll just read it for you guys. My office was told that these personnel were instructed to flag any records in which Trump was mentioned. Notably, in 2002, Mr. Trump said of Epstein, I've known Jeff for 15 years, blah, blah, blah. First of all, before we jump into the timeline, I really don't know what to make of this. Some could say that it maybe plays into Trump's narrative that the Epstein files are fake, so they wanted to see, was anything fake or fabricated about Donald Trump in there before they went on to release. Maybe that's building upon this narrative that we've seen them talk about really since July 12th when Donald Trump put out that True Social post and said, hey, my guys, my gals, like, what are we doing here? Why are we talking about Epstein? Why are we detracting from all of the great work that's taking place? These files are a hoax and are essentially a creation of the Obama, Biden. He basically just blamed the Democrats for the Epstein files, in short. And we do have that tweet here. Now, one thing that has been really interesting about this story is seeing the way it has divided or in some cases, united different bases, right? Like, I'm feeling like people within MAGA are now finding camaraderie with some people who are on the left because everybody just feels so strongly on this issue, but it is causing a lot of MAGA infighting.
Can I weigh in on that a little bit? Because
Absolutely.
I think at the center, at the very center of that, I believe there are alliances forming, and those are good alliances because to me, it represents Americans who really care about fairness, justice, and this country.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think it's a beautiful thing to see like part of the MAGA base be so vociferous in pushing back against this notion that there are no Epstein files.
Yeah.
It's actually, first of all, there are no Epstein files. That was the first lie.
Right.
And then you hear from Trump in that post, no, there are Epstein files, but they're totally made up by the Democrats. Right, and then there's the doctored video purporting to show that, oh, no, Epstein totally killed himself. He wasn't murdered. Obviously, it was doctored.
Yes.
Wired magazine did the investigation, and they proved it.
Like
so
multiple times, right?
Multiple times,
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
So,
4 times.
4 times.
so
And 3 minutes are missing.
yeah, and that letter that you were referring to at the top of this segment, Amy, is from Senator Dick Durbin, who's in the Senate Judiciary Committee, and he wants to understand, the committee wants to understand, okay, what's going on with these documents, and did the DOJ specifically want to look through the documents to ensure that there's no mention of Trump, redact those portions,
Right.
and then ultimately they just decide against releasing them. I don't know.
Overall, so what
Yeah.
does that say about what was contained within them?
Right.
You know, was it at such a magnitude that maybe it could not be redacted? Like, it just leaves so much room for speculation, and that's the worst part about this is just how much we don't know. And then it's
Right.
trying to piece all of everything together, right? But I love your sentiment about how it is forming alliances. It is also dividing MAGA, though. And we've seen the way that infighting is now carrying out when you have people who are wanting to be principled and follow their intuition and say, no, this doesn't feel right. I know it's not right. I'm going to say it's not right. But then you do have people like Charlie Kirk, who came out on July 15th, and him, along with many others within the movement, are, of course, acquiescing to Trump's demands and basically saying, guys, we're just going to trust this investigation, just trust the government, we're going to stop talking about it now. We can go ahead and play this clip, please, Connor.
Honestly, I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands. I've said plenty this last weekend. So if you guys want to see my commentary on it, that's fine.
Did you see he walked back his walk back?
He
Just
did.
walked back, yeah. So now he's calling for a special prosecutor, which I think is actually, goes to Anna's point, it shows the integrity of some of these people. Because Anna also demolishes the argument Democrats have been making that MAGA is a cult. MAGA obviously is not a cult if they're willing to hold Trump's feet to the fire. So I'm
Agreed.
actually really proud of all these figures. It's not just Charlie Kirk, though. Benny Johnson has been really vocal about this.
Oh, yeah.
He's been
Benny.
absolutely, he's been
dog
on the
with a
forefront.
bone on this one,
And it's been incredible to see
Yeah.
the measures that Congress is even trying to take. You know, we did see Ro Khanna propose an amendment mandating that the Department of Justice publicly release all of the Epstein files. We saw the following day, I believe it was Thomas Massey, actually. It's always Thomas Massey. We love you, Thomas Massey. Come on this show, please. But he announced that he would file a discharge petition to force the House vote demanding the full release of the files as well. And then we talked about Tim Burchett. So, you know, people, they want answers. It seems like maybe now there could be some possible movement on that with Trump now coming forth and saying, hey guys, we're going to go ahead and release the grand jury testimony. But, and we can pull that up, please, Connor. But what I think is important to note is a grand jury testimony doesn't mean the Epstein files,
Exactly.
right?
Right,
So are they
right.
playing, like, is this like a fancy
It's
word
a red
salad
herring.
to try to appease the base right now?
That's precisely what it is, actually.
Do we know if they're going to release the entirety of, you know, the grand jury information, testimony, whatever it is?
No one
the
was
fact
asking
that they,
for it.
The fact that they doctored that video, it does not inspire trust toward the administration. So I don't know. We'll see what comes out of it. But clearly Trump wants this story to go away. One thing that I'll just quickly mention is the Wall Street Journal's reporting recently about the hand-drawn, allegedly, Trump's hand-drawn,
Right.
you know, letter to Epstein for his birthday. I think that actually ended up helping Trump because now you're seeing, Bannon, for instance, and other MAGA people kind of circling the wagon to protect Trump. Because think about it. What grounds them is their hatred for our media, right? For good reason. The media is not really fair oftentimes or whatever. So they see this as another example of the media unfairly attacking Donald Trump. But I think what supersedes that is what Trump's brand was coming into the federal government, which was anti-deep state.
Right.
And now the way he's behaving makes it appear as though he is in it.
That is what I wanted to throw out there when we kind of got through all of the details that you were giving us is this is intelligence. Everybody has talked about this. We know that he is linked to intelligence. Andrew Schultz just got put everywhere with his little tinfoil hat on saying, are you ready to accept the fact that your tax dollars have funded, I don't want to say it out loud because that's friggin' YouTube, bad things happening to young people to pull levers of power. So to me, do I think Trump is personally involved in this? I think there's a lot of people on this list. I think that both sides could potentially be on this list.
100%.
And the bigger thing I think we're hiding, and I don't know who it is, but there is one, maybe two, numerous intelligence agencies that are using children to pull levers of power, and that is why we are never going to know. I had that exact conversation with PBD months ago.
Anna, I really loved your point about the Wall Street Journal, and I think we have to really emphasize who owns it, which is Rupert Murdoch, and the fact that a Rupert Murdoch publication issue this story. And by the way,
it's up, Connor. I have it in my assets that I provided in the document.
Actually, what did you guys hear what Michael Cohen said in response to this? He said, I've known Trump for decades and I've never seen him doodle. So I don't know if this is true, but it's so interesting that it's a Murdoch publication that is issuing this, which kind of gives everyone the permission structure to criticize Trump. Because if Murdoch is doing it, then others can. I mean, Murdoch is Fox News.
Trump's response here. I look forward to getting Murdoch to testify in my lawsuit against him in his pile of garbage newspaper. That will be an interesting experience.
And Amy, you bring up a really good point about Congress. What Senator Ron Wyden is doing is extremely interesting because he's not just clamoring for the Epstein files, which we all want. He's looking at the money trail, and he's discovered that there's been 1,000 transactions amounting to more than $1 billion through various financial institutions. And if you want to find out who his clients are, Epstein may not have a list lying around conveniently, but it's in the banking records. And after he committed suicide, are we allowed to say that on YouTube? After, he died, banks actually flagged every single one of those transactions as suspicious. Not a single one was legitimate.
Well, the reason why he got fired from Bear Stearns is because, first of all, he was specifically there to do money laundering, but he got a little too sloppy with it. And so eventually they fired him, but it was very hush-hush. Usually when there's insider trading happening, when there's money laundering happening, the feds go way further than just fire him and we're done with him. No, they want to prosecute, especially when it comes to insider trading. Oh my God, they prosecute, you're going to go to prison for a long time. That didn't happen with Epstein, which gives the impression that the feds were aware of him. And it was
intelligent.
Alex Acosta said this.
Really quick.
He literally came out. I'm so sorry.
No, you're totally fine. There's one thing that you all make excellent points, and it makes me want to bring it back to this point when you're talking about the deep state and is Trump a part of it, all of this stuff. One thing we have to talk about in this timeline was July 17th, Maureen Comey. Fired. That, if we're going to talk about the deep state, the amount of cases that woman has been on that could potentially have, allegedly, the deep state fingerprints all over it. So what's your take, all of you ladies, what's your take on her being fired? Is that like
that woman, she has her nose in literally everything right now. It's not just Epstein, it's Diddy. One thing that I find really interesting about her, do you guys follow the House Inhabit account?
I've heard about it.
Oh, yeah.
Beef with Candace Owens, right?
And
who wears
war
the
with
free,
Candace Owens.
Exactly. She wore a free Ghislaine Maxwell shirt and was invited to the White House. She was one of the influencers who got an Epstein binder. She was saying that through her sources, she found out that Comey, the daughter, not James, was basically saying, Epstein, if you are able to connect us with Trump, we will commute your sentence.
What?
Yes. That is,
Is there evidence of that? That's crazy.
According, I'm not saying, but that's a reporting. She's developed a huge following over this. She has Trump's ear. She's close with Laura Trump. I don't know, but basically, her take on this situation is that they used Epstein as a pawn to get to Trump. But Epstein said again and again, I don't have anything on this guy.
I think, look, I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know if Trump is, you know, part of this whole disgusting pedophile ring. Like, I have no idea, okay? There isn't enough evidence to say one way or the other. But I do think that there is evidence of Trump essentially doing things. Like, one of the big theories is that, you know, Epstein was an intelligence asset.
Right.
Not just for the CIA, but also for Mossad and maybe even other.
Right. It's an M16 possibly. Like, we're never gonna know.
We're never gonna know.
It's so deep and so dark. And the fact that we're fighting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But here's my point.
Just crazy.
Here's my point. The whole idea is, okay, there's this blackmail operation in order to pull levers of power. There are examples of Trump going against Netanyahu. So, for instance, he wanted, Netanyahu wanted Trump to continue going after the Houthis in Yemen. Trump dropped it. He's like, we're done with this. We're good. We're not going to keep, you know, bombing Yemen and going after the Houthis. Trump keeps pushing back on the notion of going back into Iran because there is more pressure building up. Oh, you didn't destroy the nuclear sites. We want you to go back. He keeps saying, no, they're obliterated. No, we're not going back in. We're not going back in. My point is, if he were in the files, I feel like he'd be a lot more careful.
Compliant?
More compliant, exactly.
But he's gone against them.
I think he's worried.
To the ear.
I'm sorry. I think he's worried about assassination.
I hate to tell you, like, and Anna's going to break that down for us in the future, what will come of that whole Butler report and all that. But, like, someone put a bullet in the guy's ear. Some kid that, like, come on. That's what I think.
Jillian, can we go back to Jillian made a really good point and you weren't able to finish it, so I'm going to back you up here, okay?
Yeah.
You bring up Alex Acosta. That happened in 2008.
Yes.
17 years ago.
It ruined his career, by the way. He had to resign because of that.
Folks, what happened was he offered Epstein a sweetheart deal, completely unprecedented. And one of his primary justifications for that move is that this guy he's an intel agent. He didn't specify for who, though.
So he gave him a non-prosecution agreement, right? He's allowed to leave jail. There were other people, I think 3 or 4, that were given the same deal. We have no idea who they were.
Yeah, we should know.
Yeah,
we should know.
When they were vetting Alex Acosta, Trump's administration, somebody in that vetting process leaked to the Daily Beast because they said, well, why didn't you go after Epstein? He's like, I was told by intelligence he's above my pay grade and leave him alone. When Alex Acosta was asked, did you say this? He's like, I can't.
He didn't deny it.
He could not. He's like, I can't comment on that. But he did not deny it.
He didn't deny it,
I mean, you guys, like, what's going on with Ghislaine Maxwell? I've been trying to figure, is she testifying? Is she not testifying?
Yes, that's the other thing.
She would testify. She wasn't offered a plea deal.
Yeah.
What the hell? We've got, like, a whole fount of information there. Why are we not diving into that?
100%. And Speaker Johnson said he would be in support of that. I'm not sure if we have that clip there, but when one of the resolutions was put forth by Congress, there was also a demand that Ghislaine Maxwell would come forth and she would testify. He then went on to say that he would be in full support of it, but then later actions seemed to contradict it, where apparently they then went out on the floor and they voted no against it. Now, Anna, this is something I wanted to clarify with you due to your insight of how, like, procedurally these things work. But I've heard a range of different things. I heard that it was in fact a procedural vote, and the reason why they had to vote against it was because if they did not, then it would have given the floor to the Democrats.
So there is some truth to that. Okay, but the Democrats are not going to be able to pass any legislation. Okay, they have a minority in Congress. So, if I saw it as an excuse, if I were a Republican, I would have voted yes, because voting no seems like you're part of the cover-up.
100%.
Yeah. And look, let me just say one other thing about, you know, the public statements of Republicans like Mike Johnson. They don't want to be implicated in the cover-up. So they'll make public statements knowing that most Americans aren't paying close attention to congressional proceedings. And then they do the exact opposite of what they publicly said they were going to do in their votes,
100%.
right? So I think that's what happened in the House. But to the credit of, I believe at this point, there are 10 congressional Republicans, in the House specifically, who are signing on to this resolution to release the Epstein files. But something to know about the resolution is that it's non-binding. It's not like passing legislation, allocating funding for something specific, and the executive branch can't come in and upend that. In the case of a resolution, the executive branch can totally ignore it.
What I find really interesting is that polling just came out yesterday, and this has actually driven his ratings up. I just can't believe it.
I
Did you
mean,
see
that
polling is
what I
super
mean is, like,
suspicious.
I wonder, the question I ask myself
by
is,
the way? Do you
CNN.
know? Oh, yeah, no, CNN is one of the most inaccurate
Yes, Harry Enton, who's actually been really fair to Trump over the last couple months, so that's why I was like, wow. One thing that I ask myself is, though, is it just because we're extremely and terminally online? Like, is America paying attention? That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
I think they are. I mean, even just looking at
my kids are paying attention to this.
It's all over legacy media and independent media.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what bubble you're in, you're getting this news.
And what's making it worse is Trump persistently telling everyone to stop talking about it. And this is a video that I really want to play, if you could please pull it up, Connor, where Trump actually literally calls his supporters stupid.
Yeah, he
and
does.
This kind of ties back to what you're saying, and you're like, is he afraid of being assassinated? Is it that maybe he's implicated in the files in a manner which he can't be protected? It's something because he's behaving so erratically to do something like this, which is just, he knows how this will affect his base, and yet he's still saying it. Could we play this, please, Connor?
Mr. President, I know you want to move past all this intrigue over the Epstein files, but I do want to ask you to clarify something you said this morning. You said this was all a hoax. Has your Attorney General told you this was a hoax? What evidence have you seen?
No, it's not the Attorney General. No, I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats. It's been run by the Democrats for 4 years. You had Christopher Wray and these characters, and Comey before him. And it's a bad group. It started, actually, look at the Steele dossier that turned out to be a total hoax. The 51 agents, the intelligence, so-called intelligence agents, it was a hoax. It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. And so they try and do the Democrats'
that's why.
work.
By the way, that was
are good for nothing
explosive.
other
That was
than
part of
these
the reason why
hoaxes.
states
They're bad for
supported him.
policy.
And so to do this
They're
big
bad
180 is a
for-
big deal.
Yeah, and I also just want to say, putting Trump's name aside, there are far more prominent Democrats on the list than Republicans. That's just a fact. You have Bill Gates, one of the biggest funders of the Democratic Party, and actually one of the reasons his butt got kicked to the curb by Melinda Gates is that he wouldn't stop hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
And then you have Bill Clinton, who's basically, his reputation is in tatters. And the Clinton family right now, I mean, no one likes them on either side. What I think is really interesting that you see politicians on both sides of the aisle right now clamoring onto this issue as a bid to up their own prominence. Like Ro Khanna, do you know what he's doing right now? He's positioning himself to run for the Democratic nomination. Same with,
as president?
Yes, he absolutely is.
It seems like he is.
It seems like
Really?
it
Definitely. And by the way, I mean, I see Ro Khanna as a pretty smart politician, right?
Like he's so, like, I don't know, like he's so under the radar with all these big personalities.
His name recognition is definitely not where it needs to be to win the nomination, but what I like about Ro Khanna is that he's a smart politician that wants to find areas to work together in a smart way.
I don't know enough about him, and that's kind of my sad and sorry point. This guy's a good guy. Let me know.
Yeah, no, I personally like him.
This is the first time I've really heard about this guy.
He's trying to position himself as middle of the road. Another thing that one of my initial reactions is, let me know if you feel the same way. When Caroline Leavitt came out with that medical diagnosis this week, my first thought was, that's convenient timing.
I've heard people say the same thing.
With the Biden cancer thing, remember with Jake Tapper, I've become I'm deeply cynical about all politicians.
Well, and for good reason.
I mean,
for good reason.
He could actually be getting sick from stress, man. Imagine how, like, insanely difficult this entire thing is to navigate when every single person is looking to you, asking the questions. You know you can't actually give them answers, even if you have them. Like, it's a really difficult path to walk.
But he's a marketing genius. Why is he fumbling this?
But that shows you the stakes and how high pressure it is, unless it's some crazy 5D chess, like a bunch of people keep saying.
There's no universe.
I know, and
I can expose this.
I know, and I'm laughing at myself for saying it back on the law show, and I'm laughing at everybody else posting about it now. Did you guys see, was it Anna Paulina Luna made a post basically saying, oh, look, we have the most transparent administration in history.
No.
They're about to release
Just this week?
everything.
No.
This
Oh,
is
God.
like literally yesterday or maybe the day
Oh, my
prior.
gosh, when you
We're
say
playing
stuff like
5D chess here,
You can't-
implying that there's something we don't
That
understand.
sounds,
and
that's
it's
really,
all
you know
for
what
our
that,
good,
you know what that reeks of? That sounds like Biden's a genius behind closed doors.
Yeah, 100%. Like I can't stand the gaslighting the American people. That's what disgusts me. It doesn't matter which side is doing it. I can't stand it. Just going back to that video though, and Trump calling his base stupid. You know, he's under the impression that he doesn't need his base. He doesn't understand you're nothing without your base.
thing is, he's
literally nothing.
Is this calculus? I'm not running again, so I don't give a shit.
I wondered that too.
Maybe.
But I know his kids have ambitions.
But then other people
It's
They're
gonna
like the
wipe
Trump
them out.
2028 merch
Yeah,
already.
I mean,
you know?
I don't know.
But then you have people like Bannon saying you should very much prepare yourself for a 2028 run by Trump.
Okay,
so
Bannon's
I don't
crazy.
know.
That's
Well,
insane.
you know, but Bannon is
That'd be a
also like
terrible,
he's
idea.
kind of a weather vane for the MAGA movement, though, in terms of what they're thinking. So I don't know. Another thing is perception is reality in politics. Trump must know how bad he looks. I don't understand his calculus here because usually he's literally a genius at messaging. For example,
I'm going to tell you exactly what the frig happened. Somebody basically said we're going to put another bullet in your brain if you expose what the hell's going on here. There is no universe where that is not what's happening. He's like, there's nothing to see. All of them look like they saw a ghost. Bongino, Patel, nothing to see here. Nothing to see here.
He definitely killed himself.
Like, you guys, I am telling you that this is like, we're never. Anyway, I'm ready to jump to Tucker if we've dug through all of this for now, because that's where I think this is.
One last thing.
Tell
You're
me.
so right though. In that video, the two of them looked like they saw a
It
ghost.
looks
like a hostage video.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally.
In a previous show of ours, and I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what this freaking looks like.
Man, government is dirty. Like,
especially when you see
real
Bongino
dirty.
being like, I'm never letting it go. Never. For him to be like, he killed himself. He killed himself. Like, anyway.
Well,
All right.
while you get that from, members of Trump's administration, you will experience something entirely different in watching Tucker Carlson's speech.
There it is. Thanks, Anna.
At Turning Point USA. So let's get to that.
I was trying to get to you over there. Go.
All right. So, all right. So Tucker Carlson gave a fiery speech, like an incredibly fiery speech at the Turning Point USA Student Action Summit. This is an annual event. And despite how much President Donald Trump wants everyone to please stop talking about the Epstein files, Tucker did the opposite and then some. So let's start with the centerpiece of his speech.
Oh, gosh.
Not acceptable. And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of intel services, probably not American. And we have every right to ask, on whose behalf was he working? How does a guy go from being a math teacher at the Dalton School in the late 70s with no college degree to having multiple airplanes, a private island, and the largest residential house in Manhattan? Where did all the money come from? And no one has ever gotten to the bottom of that because no one has ever tried. And moreover, it's extremely obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty. There is nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing hateful about saying that. There's nothing anti-Semitic about saying. There's nothing even anti-Israel about saying.
Okay, so there you have it. Honestly, I never thought that in my lifetime I would see Tucker Carlson, of all people, give that kind of speech at a conservative event, right? But there he is, he says it. There was more to it. Look, we don't know if Jeffrey Epstein was simply a Mossad asset or an asset of intelligence organizations worldwide in general, right? We don't know that. There's a lot we don't know. But there is a lot of circumstantial evidence tying Epstein to Mossad. So, for instance, and to intelligence in general. So, the Dalton School was brought up in that portion of his speech. The Dalton School, I know nothing about it prior to this whole situation. It's like a super prestigious school. They only hire like the best of the best for teachers. Jeffrey Epstein was a 20-year-old college dropout when Bill Barr's father hired him to work as a math teacher at the Dalton School.
Right.
Bill Barr's father was also part of OSS.
Right.
And then later, Bill Barr is the attorney general who was overseeing the prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein during Trump's first term and also obviously oversaw the death of Jeffrey Epstein. Like, there's just so many weird things at play here. Now, with that in mind, let's actually go to the next video. So Tucker also gave the audience some breadcrumbs that kind of reinforces the idea that Epstein worked for Israeli intelligence. Let's take a look at that.
Where people feel like they can't just say, like, what the hell is this? You have the former Israeli prime minister living in your house. You have had all this contact with the foreign government. Were you working on behalf of Mossad? Were you running a blackmail operation on behalf of foreign government? By the way, every single person in Washington, D.C. thinks that. I've never met anyone who doesn't think that. I don't know any of them that hate Israel, but no one feels they can say that. Why? And I think the longer that we play along with it, the more subterranean and creepy and hateful the conversation actually becomes. So I think it's better just to say it right out loud. Did this happen?
That's so
And of course, that question has been asked to the government of Israel, and their answer is, we're not going to tell you. And I think our answer should be, no. As long as we're sending you money, if you were committing crimes on our soil, we have an absolute right to know, did you do this or not? And yet everybody has been so brainwashed into thinking that's somehow an expression of hate or bigotry, when it's not. It's a baseline question that every U.S. citizen has a right to an answer on.
100%, I totally agree with him. Look, our intelligence organizations, our CIA, has a history of doing some pretty despicable things. That does not mean that the American people are bad people.
Right.
Okay, if the government of Israel or if Mossad engaged in a blackmail operation, that says nothing negative about the Israeli people. So the point that he makes there is a really important one, because I don't want individuals in this country to start growing this hatred in their heart for any group of people based on what systems of power got involved in. I would be, first of all, there's no way that like Israeli citizens, like they voted on having Mossad run a blackmail up. No, there's no way.
Yeah.
So like put the bigotry idea aside. This isn't a bigoted argument to make. However, if there was a blackmail operation and you have foreign governments pulling levers of power and influencing American foreign policy, obviously that's a big problem. That makes me question whether or not this is really a democracy, whether we're really free as a nation. You know what I'm saying?
And that's why people say that Epstein is the key. Epstein is the key that turns the law. Because it's not just this one.
Which is why you will never know.
Yeah, we're never gonna know.
I don't think it's just Mossad. I think the CIA is involved as well.
Me too.
Based on
Me
the
too.
fact that, like, just look at Donald Barr. It came from OSS, which became CIA, and there's a whole host of other connections there. Like Alex Acosta. Do we think Mossad came over and said, don't prosecute him federally? No, but it is. And the thing is, people are anti-West right now for the things our government has done.
Yes.
You and I didn't.
Yes.
We didn't vote for these things.
No.
We didn't vote for forever wars. I mean, maybe with, Iraq and whatever. But my point is, the vast majority of it, we are against.
Oh, of course,
But it
Americans
is what
are
it
disgusted
is.
by this, and they want to know the truth about it, which
Yeah.
speaks well of Americans, both, the MAGA contingent that's demanding the Epstein files, and then also a huge portion of the left that also wants to see the Epstein files.
Could I say something just really quick? Because you do see some people, and even when we covered it last week, who are like, you ladies don't understand that if this actually really came out, that means financial systems falling, markets crashing, just due to the pure implication of all of the people involved.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, maybe I don't understand what that looks like, and that's something beyond, like, it's unconscionable to me, it's beyond my comprehension, but any system that will only survive on protecting pedophiles needs to freaking fall to the ground.
I agree.
And let us deal with the repercussions. Sorry,
Listen,
Anna.
it seems, by the way, speaking of like financial markets and things like that, it seems like no matter what happens, the stock market goes up. I'm not really worried about that. I'm not really worried about that. I'm actually worried about us not really being a sovereign country. That's what I'm worried about.
It's a little bit more important, huh?
God,
And to that point, Tucker Carlson also talked about, you know, what it's supposed to mean to be an American. And I really love this portion of his speech. Take a listen.
Criticizing the behavior of a government agency does not make you a hater. It makes you a free person. It makes you a citizen. You're allowed to do that because you're not a slave. You're a citizen. And you have a right to expect that your government will not act against your interests, and you have a right to demand that foreign governments not be allowed to act against your interests. That's not creepy. It shouldn't be forbidden. And yet all of us have trained ourselves to believe that you can't say that somehow, that that's like too naughty and forbidden. And the effect of making that off limits has been to create a lot of resentment, and I'll say it, hate online.
So I just want to say there has been absolutely no indication that Tucker Carlson would ever consider suicide. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah, I also think
that
it's
out there.
really interesting, the reactions to that speech, which I think is tremendous and so courageous given, you know, where he is in the conservative constellation. I might bring hatred upon my own head, but Laura Loomer has been fuming over Tucker Carlson's speech.
Oh, yeah.
She's saying that Carlson is clearly an agent of Qatar because he dares to utter truths about the situation.
Do people know how wealthy Tucker Carlson is?
He doesn't need to be an agent of anybody.
Right.
Tucker Carlson is a kingdom in his own right. I'm just saying that, you know, it leads me to question, is she an agent of Mossad? If she's questioning other people, then we should question her. I mean, given how that she's behaved over the last couple months.
I've quite literally texted people and be like, hey, do you think she's an up? I mean, it's just really interesting the way she tries so hard to shape public discourse and get ahead of things. We saw her even when the Palantir thing was blowing up. She was like, hey, deploy Palantir. Now she's accusing anybody who is daring to question things an asset of the Middle East.
Let's talk about Palantir. Who founded Palantir?
Peter Thiel.
Exactly.
And also J.D. Vance's mentor and funder, the one who put him in the position that he's in now, essentially. There would be no J.D. Vance without him.
Precisely. And their biggest foreign client is Israel. Palantirs.
This is not the first time this has happened. So, sorry, I'm sort of looping it back into the Epstein piece, but Tucker said he doesn't have a computer because he's so afraid that they're going to plant. I don't want to
like activate his camera
but plant very bad types of pornography.
Oh, that's not a bad theory.
Wow.
That's not a bad theory.
And I mean, he's basically said, and there are cases. I'm looking up one right now where it's not unheard of for our government agencies like CIA to utilize. Again, we're going to block this out. Child pornography. So, for example, former CIA officer Joshua Adam Schulte, I could be mispronouncing, sentenced to 40 years in prison for espionage and child pornography charges. So they're basically saying he used it and went rogue when they went after him.
He planted evidence.
They're suggesting like he went to 480 months in prison for crimes of espionage, computer hacking, contempt of court, making false statements to the FBI, and a certain type of pornography. So it's like, oh, but he was a rogue character. But like, there's a reason the guy doesn't have a computer. Like, he's less worried, arguably, that they will literally take him down. But I hate talking like this on YouTube. It's so annoying that they will kill him, and more worried that they will kill him with this tool.
Yeah. So basically, smear him by planting.
Destroy him. That's it. This is on his computer. Finito, finito. You know, go to a deep dark hole for the rest of your life. Smeared forever, no legacy, you know, that's it. I mean, it's not out of the question.
No, it's not.
That this tool would be used. It's the ultimate. If you're not going to take somebody out literally, physically, take them out, what is going to be the thing you never come back
Have you
from?
guys heard of the book Legacy of Ashes? It's a Pulitzer, it's an award-winning book on the CIA, and it just chronicles decades of precisely that sort of behavior. They will put compromise on their enemies of the CIA. They funnel more energy and resources in taking down the enemies of the CIA than actually furthering the interests of the United States.
We're getting 5 views on this show. No,
I don't think so. I actually think most ordinary Americans
they appreciate the
are
truth.
privy to this, and they know that there's something afoot. They want to feel that they're living in a country with a government that they've elected and represents them. And increasingly, I think most Americans, regardless of which side they're on, they don't feel represented. They feel that there's like this powerful group of elites who call the shots, ignore their voters. That's why the Trump Epstein cover-up thing is so offensive to a huge portion of his base, because for them, Trump represented breaking the paradigm,
draining the swamp,
right? I mean, look, I never really bought into that, right? But
you were right not to.
All of the stuff about the deep state, it's like that was the most repetitive part of Trump's campaigning. The deep state, the deep state. So I'm like, if he's going to renege on this promise, he's going to be in a world of pain, and he currently is, and nothing's changing. And by the way, I would be shocked if Trump didn't have a talk with Tucker and basically told him, maybe you need to shut your mouth.
Oh, and I'm sure that's maybe already happened to like some degree.
But
you know?
I give him, meaning Tucker, so much credit, because what he did on that stage was brave, and he went against Trump, and that's a lot of risk that he's taking.
Right after his speech, Trump drops a Truth Social post and says there are some very bad people who keep talking about this.
Is that the guys and gals post?
He dropped several, but right after the speech. I mean, it wasn't even subtle. So I think he's deeply upset about this.
Oh no, you go, and then I'll go.
I just, he still has an opportunity to turn this thing around. It's still there. He can name a special prosecutor. It sounds like that's a consensus.
Still going to get nothing. You will get nothing. You could kick the can, you could draw it out.
It'll be a
wait until you're out of office.
We need certain individuals to testify.
Nothing.
We need certain individuals like Alex Acosta to testify under oath to Congress and to be questioned, hopefully under a penalty of perjury, or at least under,
they should subpoena him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, if he doesn't actually, if he pleads the fifth, he should be held in contempt of Congress.
Ghislaine is right there.
I was going to say, but do you think they will even allow her? Like, she's saying she wants to. Congress is calling for it. Will they even let her get that far? Next, Ghislaine Maxwell killed herself.
New video.
2.0, baby. One thing that I want to mention, because I feel like it's relevant to this topic, intelligence. So there was a gentleman, John Kirikow. He's from the CIA.
Yeah,
I pronounced his name right.
right.
He was on PBD podcast, and he literally said that he would not trust Mossad or Israeli intelligence as far as he could throw them, that they were the worst type of intelligence ally to work with. And whenever they came to the White House or met with the CIA, they would give them gifts. And every single time
they were bugged.
They had listening device, not sometimes, not 70%, not 90%, 100% of the time.
But Amy, it's okay, because Senator Ted Cruz said that it's okay if Israel spies on us. Remember?
Oh, okay, just Israel.
I dropped this in our group chat yesterday. It was just reported that Mossad actually visited the White House last week, trying to coordinate with Trump on how to forcibly remove Palestinians from Gaza. Did you see that?
You did share that.
This is Mossad. So, and they did this in a very hush-hush manner. It's not a good look.
No, it's terrible.
Thing, like, I could have made the case of, like, it's unlivable. We've been trying to find a place to rehome refugees. Let's say we're giving them the land. But what the hush-hush piece is like filthy dirty.
So I've been looking into Egypt, right? Like this big argument, like, oh, Egypt's so bad because they won't take in Palestinians.
Jordan won't either.
So first of all, Egypt's got a lot of problems with overpopulation. Like their population is really struggling right now because of lack of resources, massive population, all of that. But at the same time, these Arab majority countries, Muslim majority countries, they don't want to aid and abet what's very obvious to anyone paying attention, which is Israel wants that land. They've been wanting that land. So this is like the perfect opportunity in their minds to carry out. I mean, you can go back, literally, I was watching a video of Benjamin Netanyahu. It was a black and white video. He was super young. He was probably in his 20s, and he was asked, well, do you think the Palestinians should have their own state? And he just flat out said no. Like, he's never believed that he's bad. And by the way, the Israeli government is doing so much damage to their own people and to Jews around the world, to be honest with you, because I believe that the increase of anti-Semitism is the result of what's happening.
Anna, I hate to say this, and I actually agree with everything you just said, and it curdles my blood to admit that his plan worked, because his war was his get out of jail free card, because he was under prosecution for corruption. His wife was also in trouble, and folks, it worked.
Okay,
and they're not talking about it, you know?
Okay, to that point, I have to give you one more piece of information that like further reinforces this. I don't know if you guys saw, but this past week, Israel started bombing Syria.
Yes.
Under this pretense of like, we're worried about the Druze in Syria.
They don't give a shit about
No, they don't. He was testifying in his corruption trial, and his trial was adjourned because of the bombings in Syria.
Yep.
Okay, the courts in Israel need to stop adjourning based on bombings that that Netanyahu is carrying out, because he's going to keep bombing neighboring countries in order to get out of jail free. Like, that's what he's been doing.
That's such a good point. The thing is, his plan worked so masterfully, and it pisses me off so much, because he went from being a pariah in Israel, and now when he goes around the country, people are cheering his name. Like, there are crowds just cheering him on. His plan worked, and I hate that.
It only worked for his people of his country, hopefully, for the most part.
But that's
I don't think any. I mean,
he cares.
Yeah, but I think that it says something if the rest of the world is waking up and seeing these things. But then we find ourselves in this situation, like you mentioned, Anna, where now anti-Semitism is rampant. No, don't be
don't be
any particular class of person.
It's so dumb.
It's like literally
it's about Netanyahu.
It's about the government of Israel.
Exactly.
It's a government.
And that's where people struggle, though, I think, is because it's like every time somebody tries to question something, they get lumped in with these anti-Semitic people who are intentionally being anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
We saw the Elmo hack, right, and the stuff that was also there. There's the Nick Fuentes characters and other people who they do say some very straightforward, mean, nasty things towards Jewish people, not just the government.
No.
You know? And so there's a big difference, and I just wish that was apparent to people.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it isn't. Is it by design?
Well, you bring up a really good point, but also there's been an excessive use of the allegation of anti-Semitism. Like, you bring up legitimate criticisms of Netanyahu specifically as a person, all of a sudden it's an anti-Semitic argument.
Well, because it turns into like Israel, and then they get demonized.
Him as a person.
You're absolutely right. Keep going. I want to read you guys this one thing.
What I mean is, like, the Jewish people, they're amazing.
Yeah, Jewish people are separate.
They have been clamoring for the end of this war for so long. I'm talking about the buffoon, Netanyahu specifically, as a dude. Yeah. And it's not just...
And Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, like, even further right to Benjamin Netanyahu.
And he would lose his coalition, too.
All he cares about is his power, his coalition, and more importantly, avoiding actually facing real consequences for those corruption charges.
Did you guys ever see the hidden video he was secretly recorded in...
Bibi?
Yes, in 2010. No. Yeah,
Is this where he was talking about funding Hamas?
Nope, not that one. Okay, so this is where he says Netanyahu did say of Palestinians that we must beat them up, not once but repeatedly, beat them up so badly until it's unbearable.
He said this?
Yes.
Yeah, hang on, I have the video here, actually.
I have seen this,
Hang on.
No way.
Yeah, hold on. Netanyahu also suggested that American foreign policy was, quote, easily moved.
Yes.
He did not, however, explicitly suggest using defense as a means to aggressive military action, or that the United States would help push that narrative. But here, listen. The chief significance of the video, as described in 2010, was that it showed Netanyahu bragging, and this part I watched personally, of having derailed the Oslo Accords with political trickery. And he talks about how he was going to redefine it. Because the thing is, like, I have a huge issue with how much everyone hates Israel. And I feel like they're getting scapegoated for a lot of bad things. But this guy is unquestionably,
So this is part of what's known as like the clean break memo. And it's this effort to essentially move away from the Oslo agreements in order to prevent Palestinians from having a separate state, a sovereign state. And that's like the root of all of the problems that obviously Palestinians are suffering, but also the Israelis are suffering because that has led to violence toward Israel.
Connor, can you find that video? I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and then one other thing I'll add. I'm so glad.
2001 came out in 2010, and it's him sitting at a table. You got it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's take a look.
Go ahead.
כמה דקות מאוחר יותר המצלמה שוב נדלקת, ונתניהו פורס בפני מערכיו את משנתו המדינית.
Without quotation marks and without math.
Beginning to understand the meaning of the slogan.
Netanyahu, oh God, it's moving quick. Okay, hang on. Hang on. I promise you, it's like 6 minutes long, but they're...
Maybe there's a short version where they translate it.
The key part of this is that he said, they think terror will break us. The key part of this is he says, America
hit them hard. That's what he's saying.
Yep, there it is.
Not just one hit, but many painful, so that the
Price will be unbearable. There it is.
The price is
unbearable now.
A total assault on the Palestinian Authority to bring them to the state of panic that everything is collapsing. Fear that everything will collapse. This is what will bring.
The world will say, you occupied, the world will say nothing. He's going to say America is easily moved here. Especially with America. I know what America is. There it is. America is the thing that can be easily moved in the right direction.
Okay. Wow.
And then he goes on here to talk about how he's going to manipulate the Oslo Accords. America will, okay, hang on.
Say something to us to say.
80% of Americans support us. It's absurd. We have
my old lady eyes. I can't see anything.
I went for a confrontation with Clinton. I was not afraid to clash with the UN. And he goes on, I promise you, to talk about that whole thing about redefining the Oslo Accords and pretending as though they don't acknowledge some aspect of it. And this is the part when because I was like, we got to, if we really think that this tiny little country is manipulating our country, but whether that's true or not, it doesn't even matter because this guy just told you who he is.
Yeah,
back
exactly.
in 2001.
Girl, okay, I don't know if you ladies even know about this. A video had emerged of Netanyahu also saying out loud that 9/11 was good for Israel.
Based on what?
Because they got us to attack in the Middle East, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Can you imagine?
Attack Iraq.
Can you imagine how I would be so disgusted if we had an American president who looked at October 7th and said October 7th was good for America.
Right.
Ugh, disgusting. The fact that he said that was the worst terrorist attack on American soil in U.S. history.
And it breeds conspiracy theories as well. And this is where a lot of people now start saying, oh, well, was it an inside job? Was the U.S. complicit with Israel in something like that? And you get to the more fringe side of those theories. But when you hear the Israeli president saying something like that, it begs the question a little bit.
Yeah, the Prime Minister.
You know what? He's still up to his gimmicks. Just last week, he waltzed to the White House and showed Trump his nomination of him to get the Nobel Peace Prize.
Oh, yeah.
He knows how to manipulate people like Trump.
Can we pull that video up, though? Because that video was a little strange
across the table?
to me. Yeah, because as Netanyahu is reaching across to show him the paper, Trump looks scared. And he even, it's jarring. He backs up aggressively. Yeah, if we could pull up that video. Yeah, this is where Netanyahu is presenting the Nobel Peace Prize nomination. Yeah, I don't know if it was actually a nomination based on how Trump reacted to that, that document.
You're right. I did not see this. How did I miss this?
It's pretty
But
wild.
he knows exactly how to play him. He's playing him like a fiddle because this is something that Trump has made no bones about wanting for decades. You know, he wants it's his final
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's been vocal about wanting. You're 100% right.
Exactly.
All the accolades. He's been president twice, Nobel Peace Prize.
Yes, that's it. Perfect.
Nice, Connor.
We speak in one country, in one region after the other. So I want to present to you, Mr. President, the letter I sent to the Nobel Prize Committee. It's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well-deserved, and you should get it.
Thank you very much. This I didn't know. Wow. Thank you very much.
That is not the reaction I would expect from Trump.
In particular, this is
because
very meaningful.
Homeboy's been wanting a Nobel Peace Prize forever. And there's no excitement. he backed up like immediately. I don't know. He looks scared.
Here's my argument. I think Trump was like, do me a favor, nominate me for this Peace Prize, and I'll continue to help you.
Maybe.
That's the only reason. That's
very
where
well
I
be
think which tail is wagging which dog. Like, are we scapegoating them for our bad deeds? Is it mutual? I just have a hard time believing this tiny little country.
I mean, if that tiny little country has a lot of kiddie, abuse, blackmail on powerful people in our government, and I'm not just talking about, members of Congress or members of Trump's cabinet or maybe even Trump himself. We don't know. I'm also talking about like judges, celebrities, like all sorts of people were close with Jeffrey Epstein, pictured with Jeffrey Epstein, went on flights and went to Jeffrey Epstein's island.
It's actually phenomenal how, everyone he knew. Like, it's not just politics. He was hanging out with celebrities. Maxwell was at Clinton's wedding, Hillary Clinton's wedding. Like, you can see her in the background.
I saw that picture. It's making its rounds.
It blows my mind how deep the infiltration was.
And Maxwell's father
was buried on the Mount Olives?
I mean, it's well known
the Prime Minister went to his funeral?
With Mossad. Like, it's very well known. That's why he was buried there, right?
I mean, Jill, could you concede that, like, it wouldn't really matter the size of the country if they had the right leverage? Like, that's the point of leverage at the end of the day, right? When you're working out, you don't have, you need leverage.
Guys, think of it this way. It's not just, hold on. It's not just
leverage to apply resistance.
Ladies, it's not just the size of the country. It's the size of the financial power, and that's all that really matters. It's the buying of Congress, and I just hate to say it because we're going to get smeared again.
Qatar buys Congress. I mean,
they do. But if you look at the numbers, I mean, it doesn't even come close.
Qatar spends the most.
Qatar doesn't spend the most.
They spend the freaking most.
If you look at the entirety of the Israel lobby, it's not just AIPAC.
Yeah.
It's very influential and very powerful. And they're effective in destroying a person's political career just through their fundraising and funding operations.
And they've adopted a novel strategy, by the way. They don't smear candidates by smearing them as anti-Israel. They don't even mention Israel. They say, like, for example, if it's a progressive, they'll run like, they'll just show how that person's like not progressive enough. Or if they're running a conservative district, they'll run ads about how they're not conservative enough. So their ads are extremely tailored to the situation on the ground, and they omit Israel from the conversation completely.
This can't be accurate. This is open secrets, and
it says that China's the
China,
top donor?
Japan, Liberia, South Korea, and then it's giving me some sort of ad. But
so there's one other thing that really bothers me about our political system that we really need to reform, and that's dark money. Right? So there's a lot of money flowing around in our system, bribing people legally, unfortunately, because it's like legally baked in our system.
Total spending since 2016. Oh, God damn it. It keeps giving me this ad. Hold on. Hang on a second.
Anna, that's
it's got to be trillion.
Yeah.
Trillion dollars. Almost
$700 million.
$6 trillion.
Yeah.
What is that?
5 trillion.
The collective amount since 2016 that foreign governments have spent lobbying.
You know why that needs
to be
I can tell you exactly what happened in 2010.
It's on opensecrets.org.
In 2010, something. See you next Tuesday happened. Citizens United.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And after that moment, after that moment, the floodgates completely opened up. You have companies, countries, various special interests, essentially just buying parcels of Congress.
It wasn't just that, though. Listen, I don't want to bash Reagan too much. He did some great things, too. We've talked about a few of the things he did that caused some issues. One of them, he passed a law that said that private donors didn't need to be disclosed.
That's crazy.
So they could donate anonymously to one of these companies, AIPAC, whatever, and they funnel the money through. And the original source of the donor did not need to be disclosed.
Yeah. The other thing is when you have these nonprofits that do political work, nonprofits are able to hide their funding.
AKA Federalist Society.
Yes. Think tanks are able to hide their funding.
Funded by the CIA slush fund, by Doge of all things.
Anthony Blinken.
George Soros' Open Democracy.
Anthony Blinken, he had a think tank prior to joining the Biden administration. And there's some evidence showing who his clients were. Israel was one of those clients. And he was, very deferential. I mean, look, when it came to foreign policy in the Biden administration, Blinken was pretty much calling the shots, and Andrew Sullivan. I mean, Biden.
Jake
Sullivan. My bad. You know, Biden his brain was melting. So who knows how many of the decisions he was making. But my point is, there's too much corruption. I don't think it's just the possibility of this, you know, blackmail operation that's leading to foreign countries pulling levers. It's also money in politics.
100%.
And that needs to change. If it doesn't change, we're never going to have a real sovereign country. We're not going to have a real democracy. And that bothers me because I love America. I love America, and I want our government to represent its people. You know?
Well, the last time we even attempted to fix the system was 2003 with McCain-Feingold legislation, but that went, I mean, nowhere. It was dead on arrival. I just don't, you know, unfortunately, and I couldn't agree with you more. I just don't see the momentum.
I think it's fortunate.
Yeah, why do you think unfortunately when you're saying you agree with that? It's good you guys are agreeing sometimes.
Well, the hope would be there'd be some form of optimism for a turnaround. You know, as we're all three now black-pilled and gradually taking Amy down the rabbit hole. I mean, speaking of, are we good if I transition to the next one?
Yeah, let's do it.
This is a good moment here. So the bombshell that Tulsi just dropped, right? It involves Russian interference, but maybe not. So releasing declassified Obama-era intel. She says proves that the 2016 Russia collusion narrative was a calculated lie, which, by the way, guys, I thought we knew. But I guess the bombshell here is that Obama already knew that. So according to Gabbard, top officials knew months before the election that Russian interference posed no credible threat. Yet they pushed the Steele dossier anyway, igniting a years-long campaign to delegitimize Trump. She's calling it a treasonous conspiracy, and she's urging the DOJ to prosecute Obama-era officials. Lindy?
Yes, actually, since I produced this, she went on Hannity. Can we get the latest clip of her on Hannity?
You can't even keep up. It's bananas.
Yeah, this just happened. She went on and basically regurgitated everything that she said. First of all, I want to start with, I love Tulsi. I think
I do
too,
of her.
I've been friends with her for a decade. She's just a phenomenal person. Wow, this is a bombshell. This is like knocking down one of the pillars of the Democratic establishment. They've been saying for about a decade now that Russia interfered with our elections. And what Tulsi Gabbard is saying is that the evidence wasn't there.
No.
That Obama and his officials arrived at the conclusion first and then fabricated the evidence to support that conclusion.
Oh, I didn't get that piece. They fabricated the evidence?
That's why she's calling for
I'm so sorry. Okay, I totally didn't catch that
I didn't know about
part.
that either, so I want to know more.
What I mean,
like, so what did they fabricate?
It happened last night. That's why.
No, they looked for pieces of evidence to support the conclusion that they already came to. So that's why she's calling for the investigation and prosecution of Obama officials.
So it wasn't fake, it was like cherry picking evidence.
Exactly,
It's cherry picked evidence, basically.
Like
not falsified. But you can paint things. But when you paint things in a certain context, you are falsifying because you're rewriting the event.
Because it's not. It's interpreted in a false light.
So they took pieces of the story to create a fake narrative.
Completely fake narrative that wasn't there. And apparently Obama knew this, but still decided to engineer a different outcome.
So look, if it were 2017, I'd be like, this is BS. This didn't happen. I don't trust Tulsi. And by the way, I don't trust Tulsi. I don't trust anyone in government. I always like take what they're saying with a lot of skepticism, and I look into it for myself and decide whether or not there's credibility to it. I do believe there's truth to this because it has just recently happened in the context of Romania's elections. Romania just canceled their presidential election, and they claimed that they did it because Russia was interfering with the election. Now, there are the establishment parties, much like the United States, they have establishment parties. And then there was this like far-right, Georgescu, I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but he's like, you know, out of left field or out of right field, like far-right candidate that they did not expect to win. And so they didn't like the results.
So it was their fail-safe?
So they decided to say, oh, we got to cancel the election because the Kremlin is interfering. Turns out, no, there was no evidence of the Kremlin interfering whatsoever. And what they did was deeply undemocratic. Look, I don't like the candidate that was going to win, okay? But at the same time, you either support democracy and a democratic process or you don't. Yeah. If you go against the will of the people and play these dirty tricks and create a false narrative to justify doing something undemocratic, I mean, it should be called out.
I agree. And she's saying that the manipulation of the facts in this case amounted to a years-long coup. So can we play this clip of? Thank you.
Why now? Answer that for me after the.
Yeah.
That's.
With reaction, the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, she declassified this report yesterday, has many more details. You know, I have this creation of the Russia hoax that you put out on X, that you posted on X, and I'll put it up as you're speaking here. What is amazing to me as I've gone through this cache of documents you've released is they concluded just the opposite. They concluded there was no problem. And then all of it, that was the rank and file. These were career people in the intel community. They gave honest assessments. Then all of a sudden, it ends up in the hands of the leadership, the deep state, as we call them. And what happened to it? Can you explain what the process and what these documents reveal?
Yeah, thank you so much, Sean. This is such an important issue, and I just want to start by saying that this is an issue that is important to every single one of us as Americans. This is not a partisan issue. It has to do with the integrity and the strength of our democratic republic. And it lays out this over 100 documents that you're referencing that I released, declassified and released, spells out in great detail exactly what happens when you have some of the most powerful people in our country directly leading at the helm, President Obama and his senior-most national security cabinet, James Comey, John Brennan, James Clapper, and Susan Rice, and others.
Knowing these people, I have no doubt that they would do anything to bring Trump down, which actually, I mean, begs the question earlier. If they had, you know, if Trump were named in the files, they definitely would have leaked it from my perspective. But that's a different story.
Not if there's Democrats involved, though. I think there are Democrats on that. I mean, there's no client list, but I think Democrats are implicated.
Definitely mutually assured destruction.
100%.
For sure, I think.
That's a good point. I'm just also very curious about the timing of the release of this information. Just the same week that Trump is imploding over the Epstein stuff.
I'm so glad you said it and not me, because I was going to bring that up. I feel like
this could have happened.
I think
everyone
kind of already knew that the Russia narrative was BS, right? Like, honestly,
it's out there. That's what I'm confused about. The Steele dossier was funded by the Clinton campaign. Russia hoax.
I mean,
there's really nothing that new in what Tulsi's saying. I mean, she has reinforced what everyone already knew.
What's new is that she said the U.S. intelligence community knew that
we didn't need the investigation.
Exactly, that there was no tangible impact on the election. This is the first time we're hearing it. Not only that, they knew under the Obama administration, who actually, he was the one going out there saying that Russia interfered. So he lied to the American people. Let's not forget that this is the president of the United States lying, deceiving the American people on a matter of national security. This is huge.
Well, if a politician is talking, they're probably lying.
Yeah, that's true. And you know what I think is the silence is completely damning from the mainstream media. I haven't heard a single peep other than from Fox News.
And the only reason I knew about it is because Jesse Waters, I was supposed to do something, and Jesse, and then they're like, well, you know, we're going to actually, this just came up. Does she want to comment on that? I'm like, I can't comment on that.
I haven't read up on it yet.
I'm like, no, I'm flying today. But that's the only one that I immediately went on X and sent it to all of you. But this is like a few hours old.
I'm trying to look to see, like, was there some type of a conclusion where they were going to release this information around this time anyways? Like, I'm trying to look up and see, was there some ongoing investigation? Was there a scheduled release?
There wasn't really. My theory also, let's not forget how much she pissed off Trump when she provided a diverging assessment on whether Iran was a threat.
Yeah.
Remember, she went out there, I think it was in March, and she said before Congress that Iran isn't an imminent threat to the United States. And then she had to do a ton of walking back just a few weeks ago. And then Trump had to say, no, she doesn't speak for me. So, you know, there was daylight between them. So I think part of this is also her just trying to, you know, make things right.
Ingratiate herself.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a possibility for sure.
I do believe that this woman comes from a good place. Like, knowing her.
She is a really good person. I think she's what she's up against.
Look, at the heart of it, though, I mean, the point remains that there was a false narrative drummed up to discredit the outcome of the 2016 election. You know, and by the way, full disclosure, I totally fell for it and had egg on my face at the time.
I believed it until earlier this year.
I fell for it too.
Yeah.
I was like, he's a Russian asset, and there are prostitutes that are peeing on him, and there's video of it, and that's how they're.
I never believed the prostitute
I
thing.
fully bought it.
But I bought the Russia, they're interfering in our election
I bought the whole thing.
Yeah.
I believed I trusted all the institutions of trust back in 2015.
Absolutely. And the reason why mainstream media hasn't said anything, because then they would have to concede that they were wrong for a decade.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's
better to admit you were wrong and that you were fooled and you
no
apologize
humility.
to your audience and to your readers than to just...
shot.
That's how you regain trust.
That's
like,
exactly
people
right. Yeah.
appreciate that so much. That's one thing I think people really appreciate about Rogan is like he has been wrong on many things, but he always comes out and says, I'm sorry. Imagine if our politicians actually did that. It says here that they are being released now due to purely administrative choices. So this isn't because there was a deadline or anything like that. So the timing of this is so strange. What they're trying to do is send a definitive message that this type of thing can be cooked up. Hoaxes do exist, conspiracies do exist, and they can be used for political leverage. They're trying to make the American people accept that. This is allegedly my theory, because if they accept that, then it's much easier of a jump for them to say, okay, well, maybe the Democrats and Biden and Obama did mess with the Epstein files.
Yeah, maybe they are the ones who fabricated them.
It's like conditioning the minds of the American people with a story that Republicans are already on his side about. Like you said, there's not really any new information.
Yeah.
So,
and that's also why I think we were going to talk about this later, but that's also
I actually was going to segue to it right now. This is the perfect moment,
actually.
Yeah, it leads us right into this.
I love how you're reading my mind.
House Republicans are zeroing in on what they call a shocking pattern. So, Annie Tomasini, I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Annie, yeah.
Former deputy chief of staff to Biden, just pleaded the Fifth during a closed-door deposition, shutting down questions about Biden's cognitive decline, classified documents, and the controversial use of the Autopen. So that makes 3 senior Biden aides taking the Fifth amidst this Autopen probe. All right, Lindy.
Wow, what a story. Can we start, Connor, can we start with a clip of Annie pleading the Fifth?
Good Lord.
Ms. Tomasini, did you ever advise President Biden on the handling of classified documents found in his garage?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
The record will reflect that Ms. Tomasini has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Ms. Tomasini, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question.
Basically repeats this over and over again. And just to
right.
give you some idea of other questions that were asked, questions were like, was Biden cognitively fit? Were you asked to deceive the American people on his behalf? Like questions like that. And they weren't able to provide an answer. None of them were. And let me explain the 2 other people who also pled the Fifth. That would be Dr. Kevin O'Connor, the same doctor who went to the American people and said, Joe Biden is somehow capable of running this country until he was 86 years old.
Yeah, he's a real dynamo.
Exactly. He's running circles, but just behind closed doors. You never see it. But believe me, he's a genius behind closed doors.
You have to laugh or you'll cry.
Exactly. He's a Mensa genius, and my source is Trust Me Bro. That's number 1. And number 2 is Anthony Bernal, who's basically Jill Biden's work husband, who, by the way, has had a bunch of sexual harassment allegations. We can get into that on a later date. Exactly.
Maybe he's on the list.
There's so much. But Anthony Bernal was basically running the East Wing, which is the First Lady's domain. He followed her everywhere. He was such a loyalist. And so was Annie Tomasini, who was the White House Deputy Chief of Staff. She's worked with Biden for decades. She's been with him for years. So the one credential that all of them is intense loyalty to the Biden family.
Yeah.
I'm going to mispronounce the Italian word, but it's like omerta.
Oh, the omerta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, say that again, Jillian.
That was very good.
Very, very good.
Fucking Sicilian Italian lunatic.
Right.
It's like a blood oath, the omerta.
Exactly.
It's like amongst the mafia, yeah.
Yeah, and I do want to mention that this Kevin O'Connor dude, who also pled the Fifth, was working with James Biden on a defunct hospital network here in Florida. So he isn't just the family doctor. He is a family member. All of them have deep ties with the Biden family. So I'm not surprised that they decided to, again, essentially lie through silence, lie through omission to the American people. The one person who didn't plead the Fifth was a woman named Neera Tanden, who was a top White House official. Intensely,
she's very combative.
Exactly, is on CNN all the time right now, using her newfound, peddling that into fame. And she admitted to using the Autopen, which I think is fascinating. They're not even lying about that anymore.
Explain what the Autopen is for people who might not know.
So there's a controversy around the usage of the Autopen, which allows essentially anyone to sign documents on behalf of Biden. And so you could essentially, there were 1,000 pardons. And the theory is that Biden isn't cognizant of everyone that he pardoned.
Right.
In fact, someone did an analysis of his signature, and Peter Doocy from Fox News also picked this up. There was only one document that Biden actually signed in terms of pardons. And guess which one that was for?
Hunter.
That was for Hunter
Yeah.
Biden. The same pardon, that pardon, by the way, was highly unusual in that it was more all-encompassing than the one for Watergate and Nixon.
It covered Hunter for like a very
10
long
years.
period of time, yes.
Covered his years working for Burisma. He made millions of dollars each year for essentially being the vice president's son. That's all he really did. It was an influence peddling game taken to the extreme. Can we show the clip of James Comer basically encapsulating what happened?
Well, unfortunately, that was quick. This is the second witness that we've brought in via subpoena for a deposition that has pled the Fifth, and they've stated they're not going to answer questions. I want to read the first two questions, just so everyone knows. These are the types of questions we ask. Was Joe Biden fit to exercise the duties of the president? He pled the Fifth. Second question, did any unelected official or family member execute the duties of the presidency? And this is Joe Biden's chief of staff. Did any unelected officials or family members ever execute the duties of the presidency? Simple question. He knew he was going to be asked that. Everybody in America wants to know that. He pled the Fifth.
That's perfect. Thank
So,
you, Connor.
we're
And
gonna
by the
continue-
way, I'm not going to plead the Fifth. I'm going to tell you the truth. And the truth is Hunter Biden was in on White House meetings. Not a single doubt. He totally was. And not only that, he was in on donor calls because I was on them.
Wow.
I don't know why a family member was on our donor calls.
Wow.
It's highly inappropriate.
A crackhead
And
family member?
why is he making decisions, and why was he out there reaching out to donors, top-level donors who are raising millions of dollars? Not only that, he would be at all the events sitting in the front row like he was the Prince of America.
Right.
Like, what gives you the right? Everyone saw your dick on camera. Why are you walking around?
I didn't, thank goodness.
Like,
I
why
didn't
are you
either.
walking around?
I avoided. I'm like, I don't want to see that.
Why are you walking around like you own the country? It was
crap photo.
extremely unfortunate. It just,
I think I have a problem with that, especially because, look, I actually had a problem with what Trump did in his first term in basically having his kids serve in the administration. Like, I saw that as bad. Like, that's not good. It's nepotism. But at least you knew what their titles were and what role they were serving within the administration. In regard to Hunter Biden, I didn't know about how involved he was with the Biden administration. That wasn't disclosed to the American people at all.
He even got people fired. Anita Dunn had the gumption to say you should probably, to tell Biden, she said you should probably put some distance between yourself and your convicted felon of a son. And after that, she was gone in July 2024. Anita Dunn was one of his longest serving, and she was gone because Hunter Biden was pissed off.
I wanted to ask you a question. So these aides who are all pleading the Fifth right now, if they were to say, no, he didn't have the intellectual capability, he was cognitively declining, yes, he did use the Autopen, and I as an aide was complicit in that, are there any repercussions for the aides?
Oh, that's
well,
a good
I
question.
think, if Republicans are smart, they would probably, someone should offer them immunity.
Yeah.
And so they can tell the truth.
Right. So typically there would be, though. There would be, for them being complicit in that, there would be
If there were a criminal
punishment.
investigation,
Yes.
there would be immunity for testimony.
Right.
But this is, I'm not sure if, I don't think James Comer offered that to anybody. And by the way, I don't actually think that this was some sort of like operation to divert attention from Epstein, because this is going on for a long time. Like this investigation to the Autopen, this predated Epstein. But I do think it's interesting that the investigation this week has like really escalated.
Did you ever see that interview with Mike Johnson to Barry Weiss? I actually just pulled it up because I didn't want to get it wrong. And he talks about how he couldn't get this meeting with the president. And he's like, I'm third in line to the presidency. I need to see the president of the United States. So they called him in because they wanted to get his sign off on another funding package to Ukraine. So he finally gets Biden alone. And I would send the video, but I mean, I'll just keep it tight here. You can look it up if you want to. He's sitting with Barry Weiss for the Free Press. And he says to Biden, can I ask you a question? I can't answer this to my constituents in Louisiana, Johnson recalls telling Biden. Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? And I'll tell you what that is in a minute. Liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine, you understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him now because he paused those exports, right? So Biden, according to Johnson, was stunned and said, I didn't do that. Biden said, Johnson responds, Mr. President, you did. It was an executive order like 3 weeks ago. Biden continued to deny that he paused the liquid natural gas exports. At that point, Johnson suggested that the president ask the president's secretary to print out the executive order so the two could read it together. Biden then recalled he signed an executive order, but it was only for a study on the effects of liquid natural gas. And Johnson was firm. Sir, you paused it. I know. I have the export terminals in my state. Long story short, Biden had no idea. Friggin' idea.
You know, something like that. God, government is so corrupt.
Zippo.
So that's crazy. The Autopen thing, is it even legal to do that?
It is legal.
That's crazy. Well, how is that legal?
Goes back
because if there's so many, right? If there's like so many things for him to sign, like that will take a long time.
I know, but I mean, wouldn't you have to at least advise with the president?
And
I take the fifth part. Is they claiming they did?
Okay.
Guys, but they didn't.
But hold on, I got to bring up an example that happened fairly recently. So there had been a pause on weapons shipments to Ukraine. Now put your feelings or whatever you think about sending weapons to Ukraine aside for a second and just think about the fact that Trump was asked about it. Trump was asked about it during a press conference and he's like, I didn't do that. He's like, he found out about it for the first time. And then Trump immediately lifted that pause and sent the weapons. But I think that's a problem when you have
acting behind, the president's back.
I think that's an issue. Do
you think that's plausible deniability on Hegseth, though? Like, I kind of wonder about that. Like, plausible deniability on Bondi, plausible deniability on Hegseth.
That's a really good point.
Plausible deniability on
you mean like using them as scapegoats? Yes. Maybe that's a possibility too.
My theory,
Who knows?
you can like or dislike Trump's policies, but in my mind, there's no doubt who's in charge here. The guy's in charge, from my point of view.
I believe that so much until this Epstein thing. I want to hope and pray that that's the case, the dismantle the deep state.
There's also something
Every
else I
part of me
say.
wants to believe that's true.
Yeah.
So I do want to agree with you, but...
I know where your heart is. I really do. And there's something that I really want you guys to know, too.
It does
feel like this week, Hunter Biden broke his silence for the first time since election to say that he still believes that his father would have won had the Democrats not abandoned him. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. And he also said, I was very annoyed. First of all, just please, the Bidens need to go away. They're continuing to do damage to the Democratic Party, which is already rock bottom when it comes to their approval rating. But he also said that he was upset that Democratic voters weren't loyal to his father. And I need politicians to understand this. I'm going to look right into the camera, okay? I don't know if any of them would ever watch this, but if they do, we are not your public servants. You are our public servants.
You serve us. We're the boss.
So, this idea that we need to be loyal to any political figure is disgusting to me. That is not the sign of a healthy democracy.
Amen. Could not agree more. And it's so hilarious to me that Biden is continually going out there, giving interviews, trying to show everyone that he's not in cognitive decline. And literally everything he says demonstrates just how much he is in precipitous cognitive decline. Yep. He needs to stop going on The View, stop going interviews, and just go back to Rehoboth Beach and just relax and read books. Because precisely he's he's doing so much damage, not only to himself, but to essentially the country and his party. The party that he purports to love so much. He needs to shut his trap and just retire.
I can't wait to be in my 80s. So I don't have to be in the public eye, and I don't have to wear makeup, and I can like enjoy my life. Like the obsession with power.
Taco Bell.
Yes, eat Taco Bell.
It's already over,
It's
right?
so
you know, like
good.
you're at the end, and like that's all I'm waiting for.
Me too. Can't
Yeah,
wait.
like,
I'm probably still gonna be working out.
The long-term goal of a fitness trainer.
Like, that is what I am waiting for. Is when it's like I'm dying anyway. Taco Bell. You know, I can't.
It is delicious, right?
Oh God.
It is delicious.
Oh my God, as an ex-fat kid, I miss it so much. I can't figure out where I want to go right now because we have 2 stories left, and like I want to either talk about why I think that this has pushed us towards the Mamdanis.
Yeah.
But Amy has just a killer.
I'm so curious about Macron, to be honest.
Yeah, I think we got to go there.
We gotta talk about it.
France's First Lady, Brigitte Macron, escalates a high-profile legal battle over claims that have circulated for years. At the center of the controversy, allegations that she was born male and lived under the name Jean-Michel Trogneux, her actual brother's name. So this first surfaced in 2021 off of a YouTube video, which triggered a libel suit from Macron and her family in 2024. A lower French court sided with the First Lady, finding the 2 women behind the video guilty of defamation. Days ago, Paris Appeals Court overturned that ruling, declaring that the statements fell under protected free speech. But now Brigitte Macron and her brother, did this guy surface? It's not the one she claims to be, right? Have filed an appeal with France's highest court. I can't even pronounce this, the Cour de Cassation. And now I'm going to turn it over to Amy to tell us what the hell is going on. Is this the brother guy that filed the one she claims to be?
Jean-Michel is the brother that they're claiming is her.
Right.
Yeah. So no, it's I mean,
the other brother.
I mean, so Jean-Michel, there's actually no pictures of Jean-Michel since before, like being a teenager. So that would be impossible. What's so interesting about this story, and I love to do these stories where everything sounds so crazy at the start and then you get a little bit further.
You like gravitate toward the conspiracy stuff, and it's honestly really entertaining and fascinating.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, isn't it interesting though that sometimes it's just being right a little bit too early and like just and having an open mind to
well,
just
I mean, let's give
things.
credit where credit due. You were good on the geoengineering stuff, which is also
There you
like
go.
happening.
All right, guys. So people have been saying now for a couple of years that Brigitte Macron, the First Lady of France, is in fact a dude. And they're very much not so happy about this. We did cover a story maybe like a month or 2 ago where we saw the video of her like clapping him in the face. Obviously, this rumor, they're not happy about it. And there's various different ways that they've been trying to shut it down. The people who are vindicated in this instance, the 2 journalists, these are actually 2 women who Candace Owens based her research off, and she did a deeper dive. Of course, she pulled from multiple sources, but these are the women who originally inspired her series, Becoming Brigitte. I'm sure we are all aware at this point what that is, but basically she takes you on a deep dive through the lineage of Brigitte Macron, the brother, right, that she is very sure that this is actually Jean-Paul, that is who Brigitte Macron actually is. And she basically breaks it all down and exposes it all. What's really interesting, when she released her very first video, actually, we'll comment on this and then we'll pull up the Piers clip. She put out her premiere episode and she quoted saying that she would be willing to stake her entire professional reputation on the fact that Brigitte Macron is a man. It's a pretty, I mean, Anna, how much evidence would you need to have of something to stake your entire professional political reputation? That's it's a loaded statement.
So I will say this. Number one, I actually don't care at all about Brigitte Macron's
genitals.
At all. Like literally at all.
Are you sure?
I don't care. It has no impact on my life. However, I'll say this. I didn't believe any of this until I heard Candace Owens' interview on Piers Morgan, and I was like,
watch the freaking documentary.
I was like, man, that's kind of a good point.
Bananas.
And also, she's right. I mean, it is hard to, sue someone for defamation in America. It's actually a lot easier in Europe, by the way. We'll get to that in a minute. But she knows that she's kind of putting her career at risk if she's airing false defamatory claims, she feels super confident about this. So she's putting it all out there.
Saying something.
She seems unafraid.
And by the way, I don't care so much about if somebody's transgender or not. To me, and that's not what we're talking about today, but the most disturbing part for me is that the president was 15 years old when he met Brigitte Macron.
Arguably 14.
Yeah,
She claims that he's 14.
I've heard different stories, 14,
because that
15.
would make it
Macron
statutory
was
rape.
40. They later ended up getting married, I believe, when
God.
Macron was 54 years old. So this is clearly a case of somebody who was groomed and abused. And if you want to add in the extra stuff, it just makes it even more crazy and insane, right? And then begs the question, like, was this whole thing kind of set up, installed? Candace is actually releasing a new documentary about that right now, where she's talking about how all the world is a stage. And in fact, everything from Brigitte Macron to Epstein, all of this was contrived. All of it was set up, basically, by the people who are pulling the strings. I digress. I'm sorry about that. Let's go ahead and watch this Piers Morgan clip where he is calling Candace out, saying, like, why are you making up these rumors? Why are you going so hard on the First Lady? And they essentially make a bet that if Candace is vindicated, that he will pay her $150,000.
I want to ask you specifically about something you've been promoting that I think is an outrageous conspiracy theory, very offensive, very wrong, and I think you've done it just for clout and clicks. So you can respond.
So fair.
But it's this question about the French First Lady,
I feel like he is
Brigitte
sometimes.
Macron,
Like he's
who you keep saying is a man. You produced zero evidence that she is a man. It's been deeply offensive to her husband, President Macron, to all of her family. You keep promoting it to millions of people that follow you. And I simply ask why. She's not a man, she's a woman.
I'm happy to answer the question. I think Brigitte Macron is a trans woman. And I think the fact that when Brigitte Macron... Okay.
Where's your evidence that she is?
Well, Piers, the thing is I'm not allowed to speak after you ask me a question, so I don't really know what the purpose of this is anymore. You just seem to kind of be saying your own thoughts. So I'm just going to be silent here and allow you to monologue.
Where is your evidence that Brigitte Macron is transgender?
Well, I did an entire series talking about where this came from. And first and foremost, you're pretending that I'm the one that promulgated this. In fact, it was 3 journalists in France that worked on the story for 3 years. And they teamed up with genealogists. And they came across, and it was absolutely fascinating. I read the entire report, and everybody watching this, rather than listen to Piers Morgan giving you a bunch of adjectives, ridiculous, it's awful, I can't believe that she's saying this. Why don't you go pursue a primary source? Why don't you go find the articles that were written by the French journalists? Because this did not come from me. This came from French journalists. And while they were working, let me finish a statement, Piers. While they were working on this piece, the Macrons sent their secret service to interrupt this. This is not a normal thing that you do when somebody's about to publish a lie. You would just say it's ridiculous, publish it, and we'll dispute it. They sent the secret service to intimidate these journalists. They took their phones, they held them, they wanted to know everyone who was working on the piece, and what they uncovered was absolutely fascinating. What they uncovered was the fact that Brigitte Macron, who alleges that the person that they are saying is her is actually her brother, who's never been seen and who they never produced.
We get it. We get the picture. They'd go on to they make the bet, guys, and Candace was just at least partially vindicated, right? I mean, well, the bet was on the basis of would they be acquitted? Like, would they be found guilty of defamation? And as we saw, now it is being appealed, but they were not convicted of defamation. Now, we can actually pull up Candace's response because that's pretty funny. She is calling out to Piers Morgan, asking him to pay up. Fair enough. It'll be interesting to see if he actually does do that. But, you know, when it comes to defamation, and you said it works a little bit differently overseas.
Yes.
My understanding is there's like 3 elements. You have to prove that the thing that was said was false. It needs to be like on a platform where it can spread, and then it needs to be proven that it was done with like malice, right?
Yep.
With an intention of harming the person.
Which is really hard to prove.
Right. If you had to guess which one of the elements they failed on in this instance, which one do you think it would be? I mean, because obviously...
Proving that it was false, right?
Yeah, for me, yes, because if they're putting out these documentaries, they could easily say that's malice, and you're putting it on a public platform.
So the way malice works is basically, if you're suing for defamation, you have to prove that the individual lied, knew they were lying, and did it intentionally to destroy someone's reputation. That is really difficult to prove because how do you prove that? You're not in someone's head.
Right.
They might have come across some information online and they're talking about it, but they don't know that it's untrue.
Right.
You know, so like that's why in a lot of cases of defamation, those it doesn't work, right? The lawsuit gets dropped because it's like nearly impossible to prove malice.
And part of malice is also a concept called the reckless disregard of the truth.
Yes.
Like, did they just completely ignore the facts and just cherry pick what they wanted? But in this case, obviously, it held up in the court of law, which I think is completely fascinating. And by the way, you know that I'm not a conspiracy. Like, I try not to like indulge conspiracies, but I watched her documentary.
I was gonna say.
What did you think, Lindy?
Oh my God!
Is it a dude?
She makes a really compelling case.
Yeah.
She really does.
There's a bit more to that documentary, though, because I actually sat down with Candace
Mm-hmm.
for about an hour and a half, and I was like, okay, come on.
Well, I want to understand like the public interest part of it,
Here's
right?
the deeper part of this is that, yes, maybe Brigitte is a man, but she's essentially showing you that Macron is a Manchurian candidate. That Brigitte got a hold of him when he was 14, and she claims, not 15. And there are significant ties to the wealthiest, most rich, powerful people in Europe. Like Arnault. I think he's the most rich, the richest man in the world. I really think he, outside of Putin, which nobody knows, and fluctuating with Elon Musk all the time. And it's pretty diabolical, and there are criminal records, and there's cover-ups, and there's this Mimi person who we talked about a little bit on the show before, but I would simply say it's really deeper than whether or not she's a man. It has to do with the fact that they're criminals, they're perverts, they're into really perverse stuff, and they have groomed this guy to essentially be their Manchurian candidate and do what they want. And it plays out. It for sure fact checks. I encourage people to at least watch the first two episodes.
The Wall Street Journal a few years ago put out, not even a few years ago, it was fairly recently, because the CEO of Telegram he traveled to France, where he is a citizen, by the way, and they arrested him right away, claiming that, oh, Telegram is not moderating criminal activity on their platform. And so then Wall Street Journal publishes that, by the way, that arrest and all that. We're going to talk about that in a later show. And it was insane.
going to break all this. I sent it all to her, and I was like, explain all of this to me. And
I can't wait.
Jill, I'll break it down for you.
So eventually we will on a later show, but I'm just going to keep it bare bones right now. So long story short, Wall Street Journal investigates this, and they publish a piece about how basically the French government was spying on the CEO and Telegram. And it's really, the real agenda here was to squash left-wing demonstrators and protesters in France, right? Because there was, France is known for people rising up and fighting back. Like, there's protests in France all the time, and the Macron government seemed to want to squash that. And one way to do it was essentially to spy on Telegram, gather intel that way, essentially incriminate the CEO, which, as far as I've seen, hasn't done anything wrong. And besides which, the argument was, well, Telegram wasn't cooperating with the authorities. And in an interview with Tucker Carlson, the CEO basically said, no, we definitely comply with legal requests for information. In fact, we have it perfectly outlined on our website. If you are, part of the government and you're investigating something and you want to make a legal request, here's how you do it. We will comply. They had that on their website a year before his arrest. The French government never made any requests for him to comply with.
It gets really bad. So much so I was so confused by it. I literally sent it all to. It's like I have my own crack
he was
team
arrested
of researchers
August
here.
of 2024.
Okay, Okay, I'm just making sure I'm thinking of the right story. I can't wait to talk about that. Oh my gosh,
in the future, but it is so gnarly. I literally could not follow it, and I sent it all to her, and I'm like, I need you to explain this to me and get to the bottom of this. Which we will subsequently be explaining to all of you, or rather, Anna will. So get excited, because Anna's going to be breaking down all of that, and it is truly shocking. We didn't have time to get to Mamdani, but the latest is he now has a clone. This guy, Omar Fateh, who's running for mayor of Minneapolis. also a young 30-something Muslim who's literally parroting his exact ideologies. And that's what's kind of alarming, is that this is spreading. It's growing within the party. I find it alarming. And one of the things that, or two of the things that Mamdani has just thrown out that you guys should definitely check out is he doesn't see a reason for personal property or prisons.
Yeah,
so we're
hard disagree.
There was, okay, so you in the beginning were like, I don't know, I kind of get what he's saying.
No. Look, I think that he ran a fantastic campaign because he focused on the economic issues that are bothering ordinary people, whereas members of both sides of the political aisle couldn't care less. So that created an opportunity for someone like Mamdani to really excel and succeed in the election. I do not agree with prison abolitionists. I think they're insane. There literally isn't a single country that has abolished prison.
I just like to say, I think it's like
it's insane.
We're rolling. He continues to push the up button on bananas, and it's spreading.
Also, it's extremely rich.
Just check it out.
This is a multi-millionaire, not just a millionaire. They're worth millions of dollars.
The Mamdanis?
Yes, his family. His dad, their parents went to Harvard. His mom's a very successful movie director. His dad's a professor. And he's saying he wants to seize the means of production. Exact quote.
Crazy town.
But in 2000, we have a clip of him saying, "Oh, I took the year off, and I knew it would be fine because I had my family to lean on."
We got to do a deep dive on this in a later show.
Not wrong.
We're out of time.
I'm like, I have so much I want to say.
Yeah,
oh my gosh, but I won't.
on Mamdani. Yeah, that is a talk about a can of worms. All right, well, until then, where do we get more?
You can follow me or ask me a question on Manect. I'm on Manect. You can also watch my content over at The Young Turks, youtube.com/The Young Turks. And I'm also on Substack, kasparian.substack.com.
You guys can send me a Manect. I'm on the Manect app. You can text me, FaceTime me. You can also check out my show Dangerous Conversations on YouTube and Amy Dangerfield across every platform.
I'm on Manect, and I'm Lindy Li on everything.
Awesome. All right, please like, comment, share, subscribe. It helps us a ton, and we will see you next time. And as you know, you can get really excited because we've got some great stuff planned for you.